it's the time to move on to the agenda. So let me welcome Mr. Vladimír Kovář, the founder and chairman of the board of our university. Hello. Today I got a complicated task. I should talk about my startup and the Unicorn University within 20 minutes. I've created a presentation which is called Mommy, Dads Are Coming Home. And I just started to think about what my wife said about the Little Red Riding Hood when she was a child. The Little Red Riding Hood, woof woof, yummy yummy. And I believe this is a good summary of the whole story. So let me follow accordingly. I was born on the 2nd of January 1962 in Prague. As of the 1st of November 24, I got 5 grandchildren, 4 children, 1 wife, 1 dog, 12 horses, 41 cows, 22 sheep, and unicorn, along with 2,381 co-workers. You can get more information on unicorn.com, comics, and on my other websites. Between 1973 and 76, I went to the elementary school. It was an experimental swimming school. I only went to 8 grades, which was because we were the first generation of kids which only had 8 grades in the elementary. And my dad came up with the idea that a talented kid needs to have a schedule which is full, 100%. And that's why he signed me up for this swimming school. In 1980, I graduated from high school in Říčany. Between 1980 and 85, I studied the Technical University in Prague, focusing on nuclear and physical engineering. And then between 2008 and 2011, I did my graduate studies in Hradec Králové. My thesis focused on the management of companies using information systems. My career started at the computer center at the Prague School of Economics. At that time, they brought in a computer, EC 1045. Out of 8 hours of the working hours, it didn't work for 7.5 hours. And let me tell you, this helped me to understand computers very well, which is probably not something everybody can say. And I think it's actually good knowledge. In 1987, after I finished my military service, I joined Kospol, which was a monopoly for the import and export of groceries. We exported the sperm of bulls, and we imported oranges and lemons into Czechoslovakia. And our balance was active, which means that Czech bulls were able to produce more sperm and a greater value than what the Czech citizens were able to eat in oranges and bananas. I was in charge of the computer systems teams. First of all, I was there by myself. Then Peter Duka joined in. In 1990, right after the revolution, I founded Unicorn because I was one of the few people who had Unix, and there were constant questions about whether I could do Unix training and stuff. So one day I said, okay, I'd like to establish a company, but I need a name for that. I don't want to use software in the name. I would like to combine it with computers, Unix, and maybe a creature we could regard with high esteem. And Peter Dukas said, okay, how about unicorn? That includes both Unix and corn and the creator. In 1991, I started to work for an Austrian branch of Siemens. And we made a project for the management of the Austrian radio. We had Sun workstations working on the Sun Suarit operation system. The machine had 16 megabytes in memory, and the German colleagues came up with a database which had 12 databases, so there could be no other code included. So together with my friend Peter Wojtowicz, we kind of adjusted the whole thing. We made the routines. I brought it to Vienna. I went to a big meeting. I presented the solution. And as we put the whole thing together with Peter Wojtowicz, we had various names of the different files. Some of them were kind of vulgar, but unfortunately, there was no diacritic involved. So after the meeting, there was this lady who came to see me and said, look, everything's great, only please rename the files, because I had a Czech grandma, so I can understand partially. Then a boss came to see me and said, how many friends like you do you have? And I said, I got 8. And he said, okay, come and work for me. We were paid 350 shillings per hour. And the gentleman said, for each hour of work until September 1992, you finish the work, you'll get 100 shillings extra. At that time, a shilling was worth 2.5 Czech crowns, and the salaries here were about 3,000 or 5,000 Czech crowns. So we hired a house in Eigraben, and one time, as we were coming back home, by train, my daughter Barunka told my wife, Mom, daddies are coming home.
In 1992, signature patterns, a new stage in Czech Saving Company. In Czech Saving Company, twice a year, there were long, long queues because salaries had to be paid out, and it was very lengthy, very difficult. It was time-consuming, and the lady working there, she took your application, she asked you to sign your application, she compared your real signature with some pattern she had in her stock, and if it was okay, your application was processed. And so that was the way how officials at the banks worked. I mean, they had some permanent signature pattern and compared every single time with the current signature. And it took us, I don't know, something as 2 minutes, and it was very lengthy. And if there was a long queue of people, there was no chance for you to make it speedy. At that time, I was a lecturer in data modeling for the Czech Saving Company, Saving Bank, and Mr. Vadaš, head of department, said, would you like to become a millionaire? I said, well, what do you mean? If a person from a bank tells you that, it can be interesting. And he told me, we need you to bring a solution to signature pattern problem. And with my colleague, we established a software process. We took into account all possible ways how to treat at counter desks.
I kind of acted it out. Pavel was a client at the branch. I took a lady who acted as the employee, and it all worked very well, and we signed a contract for several billion Czech crowns, and Česká spořitelna is our major client. Until 1990, I needed to create a structure for the other 10 years. So I divided the competences. I asked my staff, would you like to be company managers or division managers? And one of them said, well, a division manager, that's good, but a company manager, that would be even better. So we started building our business. We founded great people because we needed to work with human resources, and we
zaměstnáváme, plus se dneska jmenuje Plus for You.
Which is currently called Plus for You. And during this operation, I still had Unicorn Group as a name available. So I thought, well, I'm gonna make a band. So I addressed some people from the music school, and we still have a band together, although we don't play all the time together. In 2000, there was another milestone. We always wanted to make our own software, and I do believe that it is and it was better than what was available in the market. And then a new technology showed up. I went through it, and in 2000, we started to use the RUP, the Rational Unified Process. It's a great thing, even today, but there's one feature. I mean, it's a methodology which puts things in place, but it is not directly supported by any information system. So my idea was, why should we develop only software by a methodology? And so let's use it. And the methodology is good for nothing if it's not connected with the system. And that's how we created Unicorn Universe, which is currently run under Plus for You, and also the system for which I got my PhD in 2000. In 2002, we achieved a major success in something that we didn't expect. In the Czech Republic, the electricity market got deregulated, and they needed a market operator. There was a huge tendering procedure going on. We didn't have a chance to succeed, but they needed a substitute temporary solution, which is currently one of the most successful software solutions in the world. There are probably maybe 2 other companies which can say they are our competitors. So 80% of the high voltage technology is calculated thanks to this substitute solution we made in 2002. In 2007, I established the Unicorn University, which is good because today I can finally appear in nice conferences. In 2009, I was awarded the title of the Businessman of the Year 2008. I mean, not that it's so important, but it simply made me happy. Then I got acquainted with became familiar with the rules. I even sat on the juries, and it's a nice thing. In 2015, I decided I needed to go back to what I love doing, and that's software. That's why at Christmas 2014, I sat down with a laptop on my knees. I was watching TV and my wife asked me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm working on a new architecture." I put together all the different ideas I had and I said, well, our architecture is going to meet all the requirements. And this is how I created Unicorn Mobile First to T-Ready Cloud architecture, which is currently connected to AI. But we generally call it the architecture, and we say to our clients that it's the unicorn architecture. Another milestone in my professional life was to organize a concert for 2,500 people. There was a warm-up band, a Czech band called Chinaski, and then we appeared on stage. And what was really nice was that there was Michal Pavlíček, the best guitar player in the Czech Republic, and he played a solo for one of my songs. These are the results for the past 20 years, and if you put it all together in 2024, Plus For You and Unicorn generated about 7.5 billion, which is not bad. But still, I believe we are still at the beginning. What should you remember? Unicorn approach is a principal approach to business and business making in which you take your portfolio products and services, you take into account the preferred division of work, the preferred technologies and estimated risks. You come up with an organization structure, you describe a working process, and you bring it all to life. Your business eventually becomes very successful and fulfills the role for which it was created. I consider a business successful if it brings added value to customers thanks to its products and services. It has happy and motivated collaborators. It is good for the society and it prospers. Currently, I still adhere to my basic hypothesis, which is that I believe that in many cases you can achieve a competitive advantage thanks to a more detailed and precise management than what's usual in the market. I've also come to the conclusion that more detailed and precise solutions than what's usual in the market can not be achieved without the necessary methodology and its direct support using a corresponding information system. That's why I develop new concepts. I work on hundreds of these concepts, and we turn these concepts into Plus For You and Unicorn products. Of course, I have many collaborators, and I must admit that it's something that I really love. Let me highlight one of my projects. At the moment, we've started out with a project which is called You Assistant. It is a key project which incorporates AI in your business and private life. My role is a stakeholder, a software business architect, and of course, anything that's needed. It's not bad to be Vladimír Kovář. Here you can see a few pictures from my past and present. Last week, I was landing in Strakovice, and right after I landed, the weather became really foggy, so I didn't really breach any rules. I've also published 3 cartoon books which have appeared on unicorn.com/comics. It's 157 stories, including my opinions and key ideas about life, my views of unicorn, and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I'm very happy to be here today and share with you my ideas. Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And let me ask the first question, which came from Martin in the online discussion. What are the key principles to lead the young generation? And how do you approach the finding of new potential and good ideas? Well, these are complicated questions. Well, first of all, I love working with people and young people in particular. In fact, there was a period around 1994-95 when I realized that I couldn't actually employ anybody who was older than me in my business. At that time, I was quite young, so I had a different opinion. Today, I wouldn't say the same thing, but I thought that we need to work with young people because they are fast learners. And in my business, there was a huge resistance. My colleagues said, look, those students don't know how to do things, but it was not true. They actually were much better than the older colleagues. Another thing of working with young people is simple economics. They come and for the first 2 years, they work for 50% of the salary of the older ones. And if you can take advantage of that, you can really, reach a competitive advantage. I'm not trying to say that we want to rob them, but they are simply cheaper. So if you look at the market, the first 2 years in a professional career of a person mean that they'll get to a double of their salary. After that, they have many, they have a lot of experience, but of course they acquire a lot of bad patterns. So it may be hard to convince these people to do things in a different way. Okay, there is the other part of the question. Based on your presentation, it may seem that you've achieved everything. So what's the future of Unicorn in 10 or 15 years? Oh no, definitely not everything. If you divide it by euros, it's nothing. So I think that everything's still ahead of us, and I'm very happy to have such nice colleagues around myself, the people on the management, the little kids that are so great. So I think that Unicorn and +4, that's still ahead of us. So the glory is still ahead of us, and that's great. And how can I tell a talent or an opportunity? Well, that's hard to say. You need to try. Okay, I'll try to paraphrase one of the questions which popped up. The person is asking about the flat organization structure. So what's your opinion when you don't talk about hierarchy? Well, that's really easy. If you take one of the cartons I wrote, if there's this question of moving on from one level of management to the other, you probably know the game when you whisper into the ear of your neighbor and he whispers the same thing into the ear of the other neighbor or his neighbor or her neighbor, and eventually the message goes round in a circle and you never know what will appear in the end. So that really doesn't work well if you pass on the message like that. So I think that the organization structure shouldn't be too complicated. I think there shouldn't be more than 7 levels, not 10. So if there is a management and there is a decision-making process and they consult the people downstream, and if you start calculating like 0.8 to the power of 6, well, at that point you think, well, it's not worth discussing. So in many businesses, in good faith, people work on what they believe is good, and the business achieves, let's say, 60% of its potential performance. And if you manage it a little bit, you won't get 100%, but you can get maybe 70, 80, or 90% out of that.
Then you get enormous competitive advantage. So manage in ways that are not come to the market, use methodology, and use a good technological system as support. What would you say to be the most important when you start entrepreneurship and you have your employees? It's self-confidence. You must have a vision, you must have people, you must have a system. You must have faith, not in God, although it's not excluding each other, but faith in what you are doing. And also you have to act. To be sitting in an armchair and say to yourself, I believe I will get rich, it will not bring you the effect. On the other hand, if you keep doing something, you act without creating this strong idea and self-confidence that this is a good thing you are doing, you are working on. If you do not manage to find right people around you, it will work not either. So you have to strike the right balance between the rational and irrational elements. I don't know why, but it's my firm conviction. One more question. What was the biggest obstacle for you? And what was the biggest source of motivation on your side? Answer is rather easy. For me, the biggest trouble, the biggest problem is the very recent one that happened to me. While the others get into background, of course, they give me some lessons to learn, but they are not bothering me anymore. And it's the same with Joyce. My wife used to be rather unhappy. She couldn't understand why I was not able to be joyful over a given thing. And she said, it was such a success, why aren't you happy? And I said, well, it was yesterday. Well, and what? And I got the award of Entrepreneur of the Year. Well, okay. And you won the tender for Saudi Arabia. Okay, okay. But that was yesterday. For every Christmas party, I go with all the others will boast themselves that the company was just excellent, while me, I'm rather anxious in my inside, saying next year we must be better than this year. It's rather unfortunate kind of temperament, but it's motivating. It is definitely motivating. We could continue discussing further and further. There are also many questions addressed to you, but we are pressed by time lag, so thank you for opening the conference. I thank you. Good luck to everyone, to participants in the conference, to listeners, and I've been very happy to be with you here.